Welcome to Oh Brother, a podcast where we try to figure it all out. With your hosts, Brandon, Collin, and Aaron. On this week's show, Fishers of Disappointment. Well, hello.
Don't you mean ahoy?
Ahoy. Yes, here we are.
Live and in person ahoys this week, ladies and gentlemen.
In a brand new, unanticipated location.
Yes.
I mean, in as much as it was anticipated that we knew about it for months in advance.
But we didn't know.
We didn't know
It's
exactly where we'd be doing this.
We come to you this evening, smushed in a lake bedroom. Oh, man, here we go.
On top of a kitchen cart.
Because it turns out there's a lot of bugs outside in Arkansas in July. And, you know, as much as I like outside, I don't like bugs that much. And so I didn't really.
Not many people like bugs that much.
And the longer we kept the lights on outside, the more bugs would come.
So many bugs. Yeah. Yeah. And the outside table barely functioned as a table in it where you would set your elbows down. And the other side just kept coming up and up and up and up.
Like the worst version of a cafeteria table. That's really what it means. Like either nobody puts their elbows on it or everyone puts their elbows on it and never moves.
Yes.
Those are the two options.
And they have to be placed on at the exact same time. Otherwise, nothing will work.
3, 2, 1, go. That's what it has to be.
Brace. It's a teamwork. It's a team building exercise.
Indeed.
To make sure everybody's doing their part.
Nah.
So, yeah, so we retreated inside away from the bugs and the terrible table.
That's true.
And here we are, find ourselves after a long day on the lake doing lake activities.
That's true. We've learned once and for all, Aaron is the only fisherman here. That's what we really learned today.
He's the only official fisherman, as it turns out. And do you know how I know? Do I know? Aaron was the only person our guide let cast.
Oh, yeah, that's true. The guide took a shine to him. Him and guide dude talked fishing. And then Aaron was just in there yanking fish out left and right. It was upsetting.
Meanwhile, the guide put the bait on my hook. So
okay, so listeners, I was firmly in the middle here. I did it okay. I did respectable for a person who has not held a fishing rod for approximately 15 years, maybe more. So I feel like I did all right. It was respectable. Mine was the biggest one. Just saying. Just saying.
True. So, although, yeah, we did.
Aaron just had the mostest ones. So
yes, he was the fisher's most
fishingest man in the land.
Yes,
that's what he is.
So,
so congratulations! If I had a ribbon, I would pin it upon you.
And here we have the fisherman himself, winner extraordinaire of the first annual funky fishing tournament. Fishing tournament. Aaron, how does it feel to be first place winner?
Well, it's being out in the water for 5 hours, only catching 12 fish. Mm-hmm. I feel a little bit overly exhausted for that much time. It was some experience of fishing before in minor competitions here and there, but never actually purposely went and caught a certain fish. And trying to intentionally catch that fish for a purpose was a lot more challenging than I thought it would be. I always caught fish by accident, but going for a certain fish on purpose seemed to be a little more of a challenge than
for the targeting.
Yeah, the technical aspect of fishing. I'm so used to just throwing, a bait out there and just flailing wildly and hopingly to catch something. This actually, strategically placing a lure, although it helped to have, several $1,000s worth of equipment to help find said fish. That makes life 1,000 times easier when you're trying to fish for a stupid thing you can't see.
I can't. Up until right now, I would never have described my fishing experience as just a successive series of happy accidents. But that's exactly what it is.
Well,
you're right. You're just chronically like, I trail fish. Whoa! Just because, completely surprised that anything ever bit my line.
Well, if you ever watch any fishing videos, that's usually the people when you cast, you hear the zzz and you're the oh, I got something. Oh, great. And so like then the panic sets in because you're not expecting to catch. It's just, oh, here you go again. Zing. And then when something like that's why people say fishing is the most exciting, boring sport ever, because nothing happens for a long time. And then you're shocked that something actually happens. And then you look around at other people and like, oh, I got a fish to catch. So
that's true. So yes, it was definitely interesting. It was a lot of fun just kind of hanging out. It did start getting a little too hot. But other than that, it was fine.
Well, I think it's also mostly because he extended it by an hour because we were catching nothing. And so he went, well, let's just do one more hour. Yes, I did not plan for that extra hour. It's amazing how much one little hour makes.
I mean, yes. The setting, when you're in the middle of a lake in July, 1 hour can be a very long time. Who would have thought? It's all right, though. It's fun. Now, just to piggyback on something Aaron said, I'd like listeners to know, 12 fish brought back home.
Yes.
Not caught.
Fair.
Okay. There was also little tiny baby fish that
we couldn't keep.
Escaped back into the wilderness.
And the gar.
And the gar. Yeah, they might have got eaten by gar, but it's fine. So it was a little better than they let on. Okay, I just want to say that. Throw that out there for that. So that's good.
It's true. And he did say that the fish were not really biting much. The lake is going through big changes. They're letting out a lot of water. So, so it's fine. And whatever. He was also saying that mostly they've been biting mostly in the evenings. We were in the morning. So it wasn't our fault, basically what I'm saying. So
fish are temperamental.
We may be better than we know. We just didn't get to test our mettle today. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. We even did it yesterday on our own, and Aaron still caught more fish than us. So
okay, look. So there's 2 points. That's not a trend yet.
Yeah. I don't know, but 2 really strong data points.
Really strong data points.
Really going that way.
Each data point has very small margins of error.
No, there was no margin of error.
That's true.
Didn't catch any fish. That's what we're saying. I do think, though, we had a very interesting conversation with the guide man about lake usage, right?
Yes.
And I feel like this is an interesting point because I was confused, right? About this whole deal and about what a lake is for, right? Now, in Missouri / Arkansas, first podcast from Arkansas, by the way. Just glossed over that.
Whoa. We are a multi-state podcast recording
This is our third state.
Yes.
Look at that.
This is amazing.
Boom.
Other one was in fact Oklahoma.
True.
So
we got the whole tri-state region going.
Really hidden.
Yeah. Right. We're going to have to go to maybe we can skip Kansas. We'll see.
We need to jump to the other side.
Okay. Arkansas fans, go ahead and call the hogs out there.
Oh, that's true. There you go.
No, or don't.
Anyway, lake usage, right? So in my mind, I would assume like lakes have different uses for different things, right? But always a byproduct is recreation, right? Because you have a big body of water there and people like water. So it should make sense that you need to make the lake as accessible as possible to people, right? Now, some lakes do this in different ways, right? Like some lakes are reservoirs. So certain activities are not allowed there because people are going to drink that water. This is fair, right? This is good. I don't really think we need a lot of boat oil in the reservoir lake. But this lake is not a reservoir. And apparently the people in charge of the lake currently, according to the guide, right, who will admit does have biases because his living is made by fishing, that the people currently in charge of the lake only are seeing the lake as a flood control device, right? Which is part of the reason that they dammed this river system, right? To provide flood control. Because, let's face it, the floodplain part of lower Arkansas is like big farmland, right? Like downstream from here, it is farm crazy. Right. So controlling floods is very important for agribusiness. I get that. That makes sense. But operating a dam only for flood control when it affects a lot of other things, including recreation. He said fishing is severely affected by this. So I imagine then other pleasure, boating, and things like that would be affected by this. It just doesn't bring a lot to the area, right? And I feel like it's a missed opportunity because then you don't have, like, yes, I understand people want, like, you don't want to have it like super build up. You don't need like big hubs all over the lake because that won't be good for anything either. But like not having any doesn't bring anything to an area that's like sparsely populated and quite a poor area. So I think it's weird to take that track, right? I understand why they would do that because that's what his job is as the lake regulator, like to regulate the flood level. But I feel like by not engaging the whole community and working towards bigger things, that we're missing a big piece of stuff here, right? I think we're just missing out on so much that could be had by only focusing on one single possible aspect. I feel like it's a missed opportunity.
Well, it's one of those, each lake, there are 4 primary objectives for every lake: flood control, hydropower, water, and recreation.
Yeah.
And I think what you would be interesting to see is, and this will actually probably be increasing in frequency as like flooding events and stuff change, as those 4 rearrange priorities, as the one becomes more and more like outspoken or more detrimental. I wouldn't be surprised if all of the flooding that they've had in the last decade here, like if that's made them think differently about how and what the purpose of the lake is, to where they've gone, you know what, we need to go hard over to flood control because we haven't done that. And that's going to be our primary focus, to maintain pool level so we have the capacity to take flood water if do different time periods and different seasonality. But at the same time, you're right, going, but it's not that. Like it kind of is like stripping away the cultural significance of the lake and the economic impacts to the area, and just going unilaterally going, no, none of that is important or relevant moving forward. We just need to be worried about the water level. And I think that does miss out on a lot of better partnerships they could have.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about it, like the cultural aspect of it, like growing up in the Ozarks, like people go to the lake. It's a thing they do, right? It is like a big thing, and like the people, it's like a bit like these boats are stupid expensive. Like I don't even understand how people have them, but like so it's like a big touchstone cultural thing, and like just doing things that make that not as accessible is weird, right? It's just a weird plan. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but I feel like you're just missing out on some things. But yeah, I understand what you're saying about the flood control, because that is a big problem, because we have had years where like every lake in the chain is at capacity and it's still raining, and oh no, this is going to be bad, right? Because it's all in one drainage basin. So like that's bad, but that hasn't happened in a while, you know.
Yeah. But I think it would be interesting to see, because they're the 3 in the chain here on the White River. But we've got Table Rock, Taneycomo, and Bull Shoals.
Isn't Beaver on this?
And Beaver?
Yeah, it's 4.
So 4 is to look at the mix of use across all 4 of those, because I would guarantee you that things like Table Rock, which have much more of a developed recreational industry around it, probably they've got a lot more powerful stakeholders that can come to it and basically say, no, you are economically damaging millions upon millions and millions of dollars. Versus with the more underdeveloped lakes,
like this one,
right? They don't have that big lobby arm that can go to the core and go, no, you're actually damaging. Because what are they going to say? Oh, well, from the core's perspective, oh, okay, like a couple businesses, like, oh, well, that's not important. Obviously it is. And you can never have a foundation for the future if you don't sustain those existing ones. But I could definitely see how there'd be more preference and more deference given to places like Table Rock, where it is so much bigger.
It may also have to do something with the fact that Bull Shoals is the last lake in the chain O Lakes, right? As it is colloquially known. And so it sort of does have more responsibility in the flood control level, because if it floods a lot in the other ones and they're dumping water, guess where it's going here?
It's got to be ready to take that.
Yeah, it's got to be ready to take not only additional rainwater, but additional dam relief from the other lakes.
Yeah.
Right. So that does sort of make sense, because if you're operating like 40 feet above level and then the other lakes start dumping water, you're in trouble because you can't get enough out fast. Because the dam down here is not that big.
No.
So it can't release, like the Table Rock Dam is bigger.
Yes, it can release a lot more water faster.
I think. Is that accurate?
I think so. Yes. And two, if you also like, again, if maybe, Beaver, I don't know, just randomly was like, we need to be doing more releases for power generation. Well, it's more consistent flow at maybe more awkward times throughout the year. Because it's also weird. We're sitting here kind of at the end of spring into summer, like there's not going to be any more like huge rainfall events, like all that happens earlier in the year. So they swell in the spring. Yeah. And usually there's a slow release. But they're really bringing this down hard going into the fall. So I that's what's also interesting about this. So it has me thinking of what other uses upstream are occurring for this lake that they're trying to maintain capacity for. So I don't know.
Yeah, because it'll be the next few months will probably be pretty dry.
They
usually are.
Yeah.
Anyway, based on records and things. So that would be a weird. Yeah, releasing all the water before the dry season. It's a plan. Right, it's a plan. Right. But whatever. Right.
Yeah. I mean, lakes, it's especially it's for me, it's interesting too, because it is a man-made lake that now has a man-made problem that we have.
It's true.
Like this problem didn't exist prior to the 1950s because the lake didn't exist, however, I forget how old this dam is, but it's like, is this a 30?
I don't remember when this one was built. Right.
If only there was
a device in my hand.
Probably not a place to do that.
Yeah, that's too bad. What does it say? Of course, no year. Just a depth. Oh, history. That's what
history. Yeah,
1947. Completed in 1951.
Okay, so my statement of prior to the 1950s. Okay, it was kind of true.
That's true. But yes, so that would be But that does mean So that makes sense.
I think we learned that not many of us regularly recreate on lakes or boats.
That is also what we learned. Aaron, have you been secretly lake creating?
Are you a lake enthusiast?
Without us?
I mean, like I can understand like people who live on the lake doing lake things every single day. But for people kind of like us, this is a vacation. Either we drive hours away or days away, like the things that people look forward to the lake, either something from their childhood or something I learned a lot today as an adult, the things I didn't put into perspective as a kid. And so like the things that people do and plus it's getting close to the end of the year where, we got to go back to school. Yeah. And so we're kind of like throwing in these last minute vacations. And that's kind of the people who live close by like vacation destinations that like, oh, this is just a typical day. But for us, like this is a big event that we get to go out and enjoy something that's essentially free, except for all the knickknacks that we had to buy. But like, I mean, just something like this of getting the last hurrah in before the summer ends is kind of big.
That's true. We also learned other fun facts. I don't know how to drive a boat. We'll throw that out there too, right? I don't really have any idea. I didn't try. Collin allegedly has driven a boat before.
Allegedly.
And he drove it yesterday, and we didn't sink. So I feel like
Collin has.
He did well.
Yeah,
he has.
I've sat with steering wheels before, and I was told to go straight and not wreck it. But that was like when I was 12. So
It's not navigating.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that was my biggest thing of watching like you all yesterday and then our guide today.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was no map. I mean, living his entire life on this lake, knows like the back of his hand.
That's true.
Meanwhile, I'm over there like, that rock looks the same as that rock. That boat looks the same too. I don't know where we're at, and that because when you think of lakes in like movies or something, you think of like around. Like I also think of like Crystal Lake with Jason Voorhees, where it's like very like circular, not like this whole jutting, moving body of water that jets out and it's much different from what the TV tells you.
That is true. The fact that it is a flooded river basin makes navigating the lake like really weird because it's like it's just a few hundred meters across, but it's like miles long.
Yes.
And so it's you can't go around the lake. No. Right? It's not a thing that can happen, right? This is the thing that makes driving around here so tricky because like, oh, I need to go the other side. Like, oh no, that's a million miles away.
There's no direct road. You were at the mercy of the lake. Yeah. As you're driving into here the other day, we got sick just going up and down the hills. It's like, there's nothing straight. You follow the lake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So being on the lake is the same though, because like there's all kinds of little inlets and twists and turns and curves and things and points and everything. You have to be like, yeah. And it doesn't help that apparently Arkansas has not painted the mile marker signs in an extraordinarily long time.
Or bothered to make sure they were standing up.
That's true. They are laying down and
all of them
like half painted. So you can look at it and go, what number could that be?
The fact that our fishing guy is like, I'm going to take you to this other spot. And then we drove what felt like miles away to the direct spot. What I would have never been able to. No identifiable markers anywhere. No land. You just like, I know a spot. Oh, we're here. What magic is this?
Yeah. He could have had some pins on his GPS too.
True.
We don't know, but
I didn't look. Yeah. But it made me think too of like the hierarchy of boats. Cause I'm like, oh, right. There's like, pontoon boats, which we went out on. And then there's the cruisers. There's the speed boats. But truly, the speed demons of the lake are the bass boats.
That's true.
Because what did he say before we got in? He's like, oh, we're not going much more than 50 or 60 miles an hour. And
it's quite fast on a boat.
That's insane on a boat. You don't, even whenever we only went 30 on the little pontoon and it was like, this is too fast.
Is that just because you were driving?
I think it was also because I was driving. Okay. But I was also like
white knuckling the pontoon.
It's like there's no way. Like, why would we need to ever go faster than this? There's no reason.
But if you got to get to the fishing spot quick,
which is again what was rolling through my mind of like because you go there, you fish for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then you have to go 17 miles in a different direction as fast as humanly possible. Fish for 45 minutes and then go another 17 miles to go fish. And that's all you do all day long.
That's fair.
But it was really cool when we were going super fast with the guide. And, we went through a couple different kinds of water. Like there was the really choppy waters. But then when it would go to like super smooth, it was almost like, it was kind of like trance-like. It was like, it's like, oh my gosh, like this is one of those things. It was like, while they had to put curves into interstate roads so that you didn't
go
crazy.
Highway hypnosis.
No, it really was.
Lake hypnosis.
Because everything was just going, whoa. And the glass, it's like glass in front of you.
You guys felt that. I was facing the opposite direction. So I didn't see any of that.
Fair point. Well, you saw it, I think, one or two times.
And that was kind of a terrifying thing because like I couldn't see death coming at me because my back was turned to it. So that's why I was bracing myself every time he although I could tell it was going to be a gradual turn, any turn, like I felt it's like, oh, this is it. We're gonna flip.
This is great. It was fine. There was only a few logs out there.
Again, terrifying.
They were not small logs,
no.
But it's okay. And there's people tubing out there, like near the log debris, like floating log debris. Like what? are you doing? It's just the worst place to do that.
I could definitely kind of tell we were probably the prime examples of this, of the people who are like true lake people, and then a bunch of like hooligans like us, people who are out there just for the weekend, renting a pontoon boat, just like thrashing around, no cause of it. Like we were pretty cautious, but then like you look over to the other aspect of the people who like live on the lake, who knew the ins and outs, who knew like, oh, the river current's here, I'm going to stay on this side because all the logs are floating this way. And, our guide, just had that natural instinct of like, oh, well, I'm going to avoid this area because there's logs. That's what he was saying when we were casting. It's like, I went the other way because there's logs there. I'm like, how did you know that?
Yeah. Well, because he's been out every single day.
It's all like he knows, yeah. But it's just fun to see that from our perspective of being with a, veteran, and then us, webbed feet hooligans, and then seeing people out there that's like, I've never been on a boat before.
Lake-based activities, fun and exciting.
As always.
Well, I mean, I don't know about as always, because this is the first time we've done this in ever. So, like, as this time showed,
can be fun. I will say, the place that we are in, the metal spiral staircase, I've officially decided that A, I really need a staircase like that. But B, it's in a place that doesn't have a lot of foot traffic because it is really annoying to go up and down. But it's really cool. It's very cool, very fun.
You don't look very majestic if you're like in a hurry. It's like, hold on.
No. I would also say it needs some tread on the stairs. It is a bit
grippy,
slippy, and precarious.
It's true.
Because I went up there just like once to check out. Then I was like, oh no, hold on. Wait a minute. Let me slow her down a little here. Because my feet are not like sliding all around on the spiral staircase. This is a bad idea.
They're installed well. They're sturdy, but they're definitely not a graceful, like you said, Aaron, earlier. Like it's not a graceful.
It's not a graceful experience. That's
true. No, but they're cool.
They're cool. That's true.
I need one to go from our upstairs office into the attic room that I haven't made yet. So go with Do
you make the attic room first and then put the stairs, or do you put the stairs in? Because here's the problem. If you this is what I can't figure out about this place. If you make an upstairs, and you have a spiral staircase, how on earth do you get anything upstairs?
I think about that literally every time I have to go up these. Because there are full mattresses upstairs.
Yeah.
There's dressers upstairs.
There's a bathroom.
There's a toilet upstairs.
Yeah.
How did they get that?
Did they hoist it up and then install the stairs after?
The only thing I can think is that genuinely there's that random hole over here where we think is a void. It goes into the attic.
Yeah.
I feel as though they lifted things up through the attic space and then punched them through a wall. Because there's no way I could barely get our suitcase up these stairs. I can't even imagine a dresser.
Yeah. That's the problem. I don't know. So if you make spiral staircase, you're going to have to like never redecorate the room that's at the top. Whatever goes up there is staying up there forever. No, here's like secret garden stuff. It's there always.
No, here's my plan. Everything goes up, but it has to come up in like a cubic foot increments and then assembled in the attic.
Oh, so IKEA furniture and beanbag chairs.
Only. Exactly.
I do feel like beanbag chairs, if you're going to have an attic loft that has a spiral staircase, maybe beanbag chairs are the only answer.
I think they can.
Right? It's the only... It's the only move you can make. Literally, you can't move anything else.
It's so terrible getting up the staircase.
Oh, it's terrible. That's good. So other than laking, Aaron, what have you been up to? How have you been doing? How is getting ready for the return for coaching?
Yes.
It's been all right. You can always kind of kick off the season every year in Oklahoma. They have the coaches clinic. The OSSAA puts on an all athletics coaching clinic for every coach in the state. We go down there to listen to speakers, and then we talk about are there any business changes that need to happen. And then if there's any new rules, softball always feels like we accomplish things very quickly because there's not really a whole lot of changes. Baseball is just always a mess because there's always something that makes somebody unhappy as far as different classifications. But that's usually my mark and the kind of the mental change of whenever, hey, season start because of coaching clinic, because then next week we got games, or next week we got scrimmages, and then every week after that we got games, and then we start school. And so softball is just weird. Here in Oklahoma, because we always start playing before school even starts. Which when I was coaching football, we'd teach a few weeks and then there'd be a football game. But softball is over really quickly. And I mean, it happens so suddenly and so fast. And so the first week parts of school are always chaotic for me, especially transitioning to a whole new subject area of teaching. And plus I got to move my classroom. But I have a group of awesome assistant coaches who've been holding down the hatches since I've been gone. 2 coaching clinic, which is a week long. But that's, I mean, transitionally wise, that's really all I've been up to, is just getting moderately, mentally, and physically prepared for the chaos that is about to ensue.
And so, what sport do you kick off with? Because you coach a couple different things, right? What do you kick off with?
So in Oklahoma, softball starts now, like going from the summer into the fall. And then I coach baseball, which happens later and off in the spring. And so softball season kicks off first. We got a first game August 13th. And then we go into a first festival. Then we got a tournament. Then we got another tournament right after that. And then I'm barely going to be in school for the first week because we got so many games scheduled, which I kind of scheduled that way on purpose so I don't have to be in class the whole time. But yeah, so we got softball first, and then which softball happens as the same time as football, although we get done sooner. So in Oklahoma, so there's volleyball and softball, then football, and then football transitions into basketball. And then basketball will transition into, for our school, baseball and track. And so as the year progresses, the athletics progress, because the season will be only a few months long, and they'll transition to another one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right. And so you are, you said you had to move your classroom too. So
yes. So I'll be so I taught 6th grade geography, which in Oklahoma is pretty much Western hemisphere, Canada, United States, Mexico, Central, Latin America. I threw in the Caribbeans. One place I taught, we got into like starts of Europe, and we bled into Africa. But my only parameters were just covering North and South America and everything in between, especially with such a young group. But now I'm transitioning into Oklahoma history and civics. So the first part of the year will just be Oklahoma history from A to now. And then we'll transition into civics, people, government, all that kind of stuff. But it's also teaching high school, which I've never taught before except for in a few fill-in classes. So this will be a completely new change for me. But I like making the change because I'll be able to be up with my students, my players that I deal with on a regular basis, being up with the high school kids. My classroom is right next to the exit, which I can walk a few feet, and there's my fields. So instead of walking a complete mile the opposite direction, or from the opposite direction to where I'll end up, I don't have to drive as much because I teach on a big campus. So I'm literally moving from which my school is not big by any means. We're a small rural Podunky school, literally out in the middle of nowhere. But that change from getting all my stuff from my classroom all the way down the hallways to the other end of the school, it's just a trek in itself. But once I get settled up, like I said, we start school the 20th and we're rocking and rolling.
That's pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's really weird. Our school does softball in the spring.
Yes.
So it's really weird to hear you talk about this because, like, I went to some softball games and they were cold. And I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So I just had to quickly Google when our softball season was. And our schedule last year, it's like March.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that was a choice, that's a conference choice thing. I don't really know.
That is the traditional part when softball starts, like pretty much everywhere else in the country. I think it's Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas are the only 3 states that do it differently, because in Oklahoma, when like baseball season starts, we have slow pitch softball. Why? I don't know. But at the beginning of the school year, it'll be volleyball and fast pitch softball. But it literally, if you go to like Missouri or like Colorado, it is, they'll have, they don't have slow pitch like at all. Like no other state has slow pitch except for Oklahoma. There might be like one other state, but
really boring national championship then.
Very
not good.
So only state contenders.
Exactly. State nationals. Actually, same thing, same event.
So we'll play, and because every college in the country, that is when they play fast pitch softball, is like in beginning of March, and so Oklahoma's just that weird. I don't know why. I have asked. No one can give me a direct answer. I'm sure Google can possibly give me something, but talking to like some old coaches at the clinic, they're like, "Oh, just who's always been." I'm like, that doesn't help me at all. I running into some of these coaches at the clinic, a lot of them do coach fast pitch softball and baseball, so it's easy to, because that's what I do, because I go for I'm the what am I for? I'm the bats coach. I coach all bat related sports at my school, because I do fast pitch and baseball, so I use the same facility for both. And a lot of coaches around that in the state do that. Some other coaches, they'll coach like football in the fall and then they'll coach baseball. But a lot of coaches, just to keep for simplicity purposes, they'll coach fast pitch and then they'll coach baseball later on. But as far as like why Oklahoma does it, I haven't got a clue.
That's interesting.
Just to be different.
Yeah, just to be different, just to mix it up, you know.
Yeah. I wonder if that one came first and people moved away from it, or if Oklahoma decided they wanted to do something different to match more regional proclivities.
Probably.
You should include that in your history of Oklahoma class, actually. So all you should do is just make it the history of Oklahoma sports.
Well, I've been talking a lot about the Oklahoma Sooners at that point, because that's been the dominant of the sports. But like I said, in every college, even colleges in Oklahoma, fast pitch starts in March. We just had the College World Series not that long ago for softball and baseball, and it happened at the same time, but no, not in Oklahoma high school sports.
I don't know what to do with that. Okay.
Yeah. It's just weird how which some schools decide what to do. It's a really weird conversation I imagine because it has to be conference wide decision, because our school plays baseball in fall and spring.
Because you guys don't have football?
I mean, that might be part of the reason, but I don't know if they just really love baseball. We do spring and fall baseball, and then spring softball, and then basketball's in the winter, I guess. And I can't remember if volleyball is before or after basketball. I think it's after. Because I think volleyball goes into I don't know. I have to look that up. I don't.
A lot of those smaller schools who don't have football will have fall baseball. That's one of the biggest splits now in Oklahoma, is because fall ball schools historically are just stupid good. Because if you think about it, a senior in a spring baseball school, has played 4 seasons of baseball. Meanwhile, a senior at a fall ball school has pretty much played the equivalent of 8 seasons. And so there's usually a night and day difference. And then Class A classifications, those fall ball schools win state every year. That's what happened to us when we went to regionals. We were paired up against a fall ball team who was ridiculously good. And so we show up and we just, get the snot kicked out of us. And it shows, because they had guys on there that are seniors and 8 seasons compared to 4. I mean, that person is way more developed. They've had way more ground balls. They've been able to hit, top speed pitches before, and then compared to our guys, and it definitely shows. And it's just hard to practice. You can't practice a game. It's hard to mimic that, because you play all these people. But a lot of the small schools, if they don't have football, they will have the fall ball to kind of replace it, because things like Title IX, they have to have that balance through. Yeah. So,
what about Collin? How's Collin outside of laking it up.
Outside of laking it up, haven't been doing a whole lot, genuinely. And it's been wonderful. It's been actually wonderful. One of the things that we did first or second year that we moved in, Megan threw out a bunch of seeds. I'd like to call it chaos farming, because she kind of takes a bunch of seeds and throws them in a general area.
Not just like wildflower seeds, like actual like plant, like garden plant.
Yeah, it happens from time to time where you'll be like, "Oh, is that a squash? Oh, that's cool." But most of the time, it's like flowers and those kind of pretty things where it's like, "What did you plant?" And she'll go, "I don't know. It was in a packet, and I just threw it over there." So one time she did this, and she got sunflowers randomly. It was a surprise. She really likes sunflowers. So every year since, we grow sunflowers. But also every year since, whatever the sunflower is the first one that looks like it's about to bloom, we have a squirrel who will come and chew off the head of the sunflower prior to it opening and then run away. It's happened several years in a row now where you look at the one and you're like, here it comes. It's going to be blooming. It's going to be blooming. Exactly. And our neighbors, we talked to our neighbors last week and we were bemoaning this and they were like, oh, that's what it was. And we were like, what? And they said, we were out in our backyard doing yard work and we noticed that your sunflower was like violently shaking. Well, and he thought it was me trying to scare him. He was like, yeah, I thought it was you, Collin, out there trying to mess with me. And I was like, what? And all of a sudden,
when have I ever done that? What are you talking about?
I have done weird things. So it's actually
well, that's fair, but like, I don't
not out of the ordinary or like out of to be. Could be expected. It's in the realm of possibility.
Okay.
Anyway, and he's watching the sunflower, and all of a sudden, the squirrel pops its head over, looks left, looks right, dives back down, and it violently shakes more, and then the head pops down. And the squirrel jumps up and scampers away. And we were like, oh, you saw the culprit? You have permission to shoot. Next time, you have permission to shoot across our property. Sure, we have a tiny, tiny backyard and you immediately be in our neighbor's yard. But that's fine.
BB gun.
Get the squirrel.
BB gun it. It's fine.
So the squirrel has prevailed yet again this year, taken out our largest, and we had got the mammoth, the giant sunflowers. The stalk on this thing is about actually a little bit more than like a coffee mug of the stalk of this the sunflower, and so it's huge, and so so we been watching that. Also, another plant related thing because this is just what we get to do. We 2 years ago, and Megan will correct me on this because I'm getting to that point in my life where everything is either like 2 years ago or 10 years ago. There's not a whole lot in between. And we went to a butterfly event where they gave out milkweed and we planted them that year. And the first year we had them, we had like 4 monarch butterflies land on these itty bitty teeny tiny milkweed plants. And they stripped them all like 4 times over that growing season because there just wasn't very many plants. So we let them die, and I didn't know anything about milkweed. Turns out they come back every year, and now they're like 6.5 feet tall, and they're these huge plants.
Goodness.
I know. So now I am ready for the monarch butterflies. But now I'm like, oh no, now they probably aren't going to show up. And we've got all the milkweed that we could want. I don't know. So we'll see. We're still watching, learning about milkweed. Also learned that aphids are bad for them. So when we walked out and we saw millions of aphids on them, so then
bit of a surprise.
Looked up more kind ways of treating this because I didn't want to spray a bunch of chemicals on a plant that butterflies are going to be landing on. Not good.
No.
Turns out you can use diatomaceous earth mixed with water and you spritz it directly on the aphids. Now, I say this is what should happen because I did spritz them and then they did do jack. They're all still there. And Lillian came back later and went, do you know you can just scrape them off with a stick? And I was like, look, fine. Look, that's better. We'll just scrape off the aphids with a stick.
I won't waste any more of my diatomaceous earth on the aphids.
I like how your daughter's solution was, he's whacking with a stick, Dad. It's fine.
Here I am, like I'm going gently spraying and mixing and making sure it's all okay. And she's like, I just scraped them off with a stick, Dad.
Hit him.
Well, that works. Actually, don't damage the plant. You'll be fine.
Yeah, no. Or yourself.
Or
please.
yourself. Or yourself.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Beyond that, and finding the glass floors in our library, which was really cool.
That is an exciting discovery.
Yes. Yeah. Aaron, did I tell you about this?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Somewhat terrifying at first when you realize you're standing on it. But
I had to look up what a milkweed was.
So, our library in our town is one of the large. It's considered. It goes back and forth, but it's arguably the largest Carnegie library west of the Mississippi.
in the running for.
Now, we're not that far past the Mississippi, so that's what makes it kind of hard for me to believe, but it's fine. Anyway. In the back catalog where they used to keep the library books, first off, I learned that when it was originally built, only the librarians would go back there and get you your books. You could not go back and get the book yourself.
Oh.
So you had to know what book you wanted. Browsing was not an option. Additionally, you could not check out you could not check out just a fiction book.
No.
You had to, if you got a fiction book, you had to take a nonfiction book with you each time.
I think some school librarians still will believe this.
But then they opened up the back library stacks so that people could go in there. But when they did this, apparently this was like only in the 30s when they opened up, let the peons come and touch the books. They had a basement, a first floor, and a second floor. It was very, very dark, and electricity, they didn't have good light bulbs and everything back there. So their solution was glass floors.
Oh.
On the first floor and second floor. Yes. And so when you go back there, and the reason they did this was so that the sunlight from all of the windows could come down all the way through, illuminating the areas.
Fair enough.
And so now you can go back there and walk on these original to this construction, not to the library itself, because it's much older, but they built them in the 30s, and there they still are for you to walk upon, which my family says that I knew about this. However, I argue that I did not know about this, mostly because when I stepped onto it, I was terrified. And one of them is loose. So I would have remembered that. How they won't by this.
It's a little bit loose stuff. It's fine.
Since we all know that Collin is very fond of heights.
Yes, and totally not clumsy at all.
Yeah.
What could go wrong with glass floors?
Here, I'm showing Aaron pictures. Look, that's the floors. These huge panels of there. Yeah, set in like big tiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the floors are.
That's glass?
That's glass.
Like glass. Not
glass.
Not like plexiglass, fake glass.
No.
Proof glass, just glass.
No. From the 30s.
So it's sturdy.
Stomping around on that stuff.
Potentially leaded. Just no.
Most definitely leaded.
That's the only asbestos in it.
Yeah.
So that was their solution for electricity purposes.
Yeah, because they didn't have good lights. So they went, you know what we'll do? Glass floors.
And it's like you can see pretty well with this.
Well, now they have electricity.
Well, now, but
yeah. I mean, for the time prior to glass floors, yes. Now you could have seen amazing.
Well, you could have seen.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
I don't think you're reading the book back there, but you can go back there and grab it and then leave. Yes. So that means that when you're in the basement, the ceiling is glass above you, and there's tons of windows on the first floor. So all that light comes down, and then when you're on the first floor, now all the windows above you are also doing that, and you've got the light bullet. So yeah, it all fits together. And I found this all very fascinating because I talked to my librarian, and she was very busy and wanted to go back and do other stuff. And I was like, no, you will talk to me.
To show these, stop it, go away.
But it was also fun because then she started talking about how they have like architectural students come from Kansas City and St. Louis and see this. And it's part of their studies is to come out and see this old building and stuff. And I thought that was really cool.
That is kind of cool.
That they
Some
this-
architectural history in the flesh.
Yes.
Like that's what people do, like for the Frank Lloyd Wright building
That's
in
true.
like downtown Bartlesville. People like come like from miles and just like at the building. But like being inside the building, like I could see like the architectural and engineering wonders because it is an oddity in itself. And so like the fact that this library's decision to do, hey, let's put glass floors in it and it's still standing the test of time, like that is fascinating. I probably wouldn't have thought of anything of it. It's like, oh, that's weird, and like kept walking. But for people who like truly study this art, if you will, I could definitely understand how they find it, intriguing and fascinating.
Yes. So that's what we were doing. I was traipsing around our library carefully on glass floors.
Very carefully. Thank you for not falling through the glass floor into the library.
How are you wrapping up your summer, Brandon?
Really just not doing a whole lot of anything. Susan has to go back to work before me. But she's been working here and there anyway, going doing family visits off and on, just scattered throughout. So we're just trying to enjoy the last little bit of time before I have to go back and do whatever it is I have to go back and do. I'll have to see what sort of exciting adventures we have, but I think we only have one. Susan has, after next week, I think Susan has to start going back and doing some stuff. So we're just going to kind of take it easy next week, chill. That's pretty much it. Nothing really exciting other than being slightly sunburned. That's really all I got. Like I got
my chin still is tender. I missed my chin. I did my cheeks, my nose, my forehead. I missed my chin. Just this nice little chick there. So
good times.
Well, I mean, that's exciting. So you don't have to move rooms. You've got everything set. You're not just going back to another year. To the fun times.
Just going to go unpack when I actually have to go back for in-service because I don't want to go in before that and mess with it. So I'm just I don't have that much to unpack anyway. It's all on the shelves, and my shelves are so big they don't move them. So my secret strat is to just pile as much stuff as possible on all my shelves. And I don't have to worry about it. And so then it's fine.
It helps that you also teach geology. So all of the rocks,
they're not moving my rocks. That's the thing. They're just like, nah, forget that. It's too much.
I'm good.
Yeah, we have that. And then I just got to go make sure, like, did you put all my desks in here? Count them up. Okay, good. I don't have to go to a neighboring classroom, like steal it back. Give me that. I don't need it. Steal my table. That happened one year. They put it in the wrong room. I had to go hunt it down. That was annoying.
Do you have them secretly labeled, or could you easily identify them?
They're not secretly labeled. They're definitely labeled in big masking tape with my room number and Sharpie on.
Oh, so. Okay. I was just curious because all school desks kind of look the same to me, so I was wondering how you discerned them, but you had them very labeled. It sounds like not.
And my desks are different than the other upstairs desks anyway. But bam.
Well, that helps too.
Oh, I can tell. That's mine.
Give me my desk.
But yeah, also the masking tape with Sharpie helps really track them down. It's the last thing I do before I leave. Label everything. Get me this back. I don't want.
You could do worse.
It's true.
Could do.
This time I did iterate. I tell you about my map I made. So I used those. So they didn't tell us this year because communication is fun. But they used to tell us to make a map for the custodial crew. So I made my map. And this year, instead of attempting to label and describe all of my furniture, I just thought, why don't I'm just going to label them all with letters. So I also just put like, this is A, this is B. So on my map, I drew all these shapes and just went A, B, C, D, E, B. Boom. Nailed it.
Nice.
So I was trying to, because I would be like brown desk. And then I look and be like, oh, wait. Or like, light brown table. I have 3 of those. Dang it. So I I didn't have enough descriptors to discern between my tables that look the same. So I just
This is giving me DD vibes with how he labeled the windmill with the A to A and the B to B.
It was some very dad vibe. So this is what I did. This is my iteration for mapping the room.
I think that's
room mapping.
Very, very helpful, though.
Yeah. So that's what I have to look forward to.
Disambiguation.
Going back and unpacking my stuff. I have less to unpack though, so I got rid of a bunch of stuff last year. So we'll see how it goes.
Nice.
Yeah. Not gonna think about it too much till I get there.
Probably good.
Not worry about it. So yeah, putting it off as long as possible. Mostly putting it off as long as possible. That's what I'm doing.
Fair. It's fine. It's
Yep.
okay. Well, would you like to dive into a book?
I would. We can talk about this, right? We'll finish up here a little bit with some chapterinos. Let me find the chapter that we started on. No, that wasn't it. What did we start on? 19, which is not 20. Here we go. That's, right. 19 is another boring chapter. That's why I didn't remember.
These have really been interesting, haven't they, as far as what is being covered and
what Twain's editors left in. Right. Like,
it would be very interesting to see what the process was like for this. I'm not going to lie. For this.
Yeah, because this is Sandy continuing to tell her little story thing. Right.
Yes.
That's what's happening. Although this time we do have a bit of a footnote, right? At least mine does. Did you have a footnote?
No, I don't have footnotes. Okay. No.
Well, mine one footnote that, it says it's labeled 3. I don't remember any other footnotes. Anyway, I do have a footnote that said this story is borrowed language and all from Le Mort d'Arthur. So this is basically just Sandy retelling some story from Thomas Mallory, right? Like that's what. So I think he's still pointing on the fact that I think this is his critique on the writing style of Mallory and how it's bad. Like it's just because it's still all, and then he did this, and then he did this, and then he did that, and then this happened. And so I think these little digs of it, because again, Twain is kind of saying that some of these stories are not good, right? And some of these like random side chapters are critiques on the Arthurian stories. And here he is specifically referencing Thomas Mallory's Le Mort d'Arthur, which is like the big collection that like everybody knows about and was the one that was being revived at the time, right? The one that was really popular that everybody was reading and starting to read and gain popularity again in the mid to late 1800s. And so I think this is like a very specific dig at Mallory saying, "You're boring, bro. Get out of here."
It really is. And I can't imagine reading that story because, again, when you go through this one, the number of sentences that start with and then
it's staggering.
And then this, if this is supposed to be a light commentary on the way stories had been told, and maybe that's the whole point here.
Yeah, I think maybe
just genuinely these stories are boring and can be done so much better.
Yeah. And it is kind of interesting because he's talking about how the only other reference that this has to actual events, so in that regard, it is better than some of the other ones that have happened, is that it is, he's saying that the story is about this group of knights, which she tells him is the same group of knights that he defeated and sent back to Camelot also. And he's like, what? This has happened to them before? They must not be very good at knights, right? He's also kind of talking about how this knight, the chapter is called Knight Errantry as a Trade, and he's kind of talking about how it's kind of not really that great. This kind of like just random knight errant going on little quests here and there and
wandering around
in the land is kind of like meh. So he's
trying to be useful in some weird way, but mostly just the trade itself is wandering about.
Yeah, which it kind of comes to in a minute, because at the next chapter, right, we come across one of his other wandering billboards, right? So he's at the beginning of chapter 20. We segue into there, and he comes across one of his other guys, his wandering billboard people, where he's saying, you know, this is the boss, Hank here, trying to like change the idea of what a knight errant is. I think that's the reason that he picked them for advertisements. Like, they're already going around the country anyway. I'm going to give them something more useful to do than whatever the knights are doing. Now they're going to be selling stuff to people and buying things or whatever. He's changing the job. He's trying to make it appeal to himself more in what he feels is like a more useful modern thing, right? And so that's just interesting that we have those two things juxtaposed together. Is the last chapter him like being like, knight errants are dumb, and then we have like, oh, here's another one of my guys who was a knight errant, but now he's useful.
Because like you said, he's trying to go, okay, well, you're wandering about anyway. Why don't you actually, you know, be useful to this purpose? If you're just going to be wandering hither and thither, it just makes more sense for sure. Yes, it's
right. It's very weird, but then all of a sudden he like hits this like real serious note all of a sudden, like right before they get to the castle that they've been trying to get to for like 80 chapters, it feels like, right? He starts talking about, because the guy is telling him about, you know, what he's been doing and everything, and he says that he has like this realization that like what he's doing won't change people's minds, right? And he says, I really wish I had gone some other road. This was not the sort of experience for a statesman to encounter who was planning out a peaceful revolution in his mind, for it could not help bring up the unsurmountable fact that all gentle cant philosophizing or in the world, skip blah blah. He talks about how all revolutions that will succeed must begin in blood, and he's just like really down. And he says, if that's the way it is, I am not the guy for this job. Right? I can't. Because he starts talking, he's going on about the serfdom and the things and all this stuff, and he just, you know, he's realizing like no matter of gentle prodding will make this happen, right? There needs to be some severe thing, and he's like, I am not the type of person that is able to do that, and so he's wondering if anything that he's doing is actually useful to anybody. Right? Yeah, what these folks needed then was a reign of terror and a guillotine, and I was the wrong man for them. Like,
which really makes you start to question, like, then to what end is he doing all of this then? Like, how is he, like, when you think about it, if he's really coming to the, oh, right, because he started off his stories and his interactions in talking about how simple people were and how they were very superficial and how they process things and all of this stuff. And he's trying to do this like subversion and all this tactile and you know, this high level stuff. And now he's going, none of this is going to get through to them. Like, it's going to actually take blood, and to know that, like, to what avail, to what end do all of his experiments, you know, go forward in that sense, you know.
It's weird too, because I just remember it's brought on by his knight errant encountering the people leaving the dungeons of Morgan Le Fay, right? Because somebody told him, hey, there's traveling people over there. And he's like, ooh, traveling people, I'm going to go see them. And he's like, okay, well, I can't sell these people anything because they don't have anything because they've just been released from a dungeon. So that I think that brings him back into a dark headspace too, because like you said, that was the darkest chapter we'd had so far.
Mm-hmm.
So that's weird. But yeah, his ideas kind of transition into the next section in the chapter because they do arrive at the quote ogre's castle.
Ogre's castle. Yes. Yeah.
And oh man. Yeah. So the ogre's castle appears to be some sort of hut.
Mm-hmm.
And the princesses that are trapped are definitely just pigs.
Yeah.
Right. And
it's nothing but a pigsty.
Yeah.
Pigsty with a wattled fence around it.
Yeah. And so he's just like, what the heck? I rode like 1,000,000 days for what in the world is happening?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so he realizes, right, like that.
Well, Sandy starts saying something like, it was not enchanted aforetime. How strange is this marvel, and how awful that to one perception it is enchanted and dight in a base of shameful aspect. And so she starts talking about like how weird it is that this is like, because she's surprised and distressed by this same thing too. So I wonder, is this her little sidestepping her going, well, this must be an enchantment?
Well, so that's right. Where we bleed into the next chapter.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
So to finish this up, he goes and he quote rescues the maidens.
Yeah.
He buys them from the farmers. And then she calls them by their royal names. And she says, we have to take them to see their family. And so they're basically herding pigs across the countryside. They get to this other castle where they just go in, and it turns out she doesn't actually know who owns this castle either, but she does go in and make herself at home and just let the pigs come in. I mean, princesses.
I will also say it is funny how like he's really frustrated by this whole process because he complains about how the pigs aren't even good at being herded and being driven. He's like, they would stay in no road, no path, they broke through brush and all sides. Yeah. It's a lot of trouble for him.
Yeah. But then we get back to what you were talking about a minute ago, right? He starts saying like, well, this is a product of Sandy's upbringing, because Sandy is brought up in a world that believes in enchantments and bewitchment, right? He has to say like, because she, like, it comes across as she is seeing them as maidens and he is seeing them as pigs, right? So he is basically saying, oh, the enchantment is still upon me. So I believe you, right? I see them as pigs, but you're right. They're totally princesses. Whatever.
Just because otherwise, he realizes otherwise he's going to completely shatter, Sandy's entire whatever's going on here.
And he talks about that. He says, well, was she crazy? Blah, blah. It's like, no, she wasn't crazy. This is just the world that she lives in and believes. If I started telling her about the world that I live in, she would think I was crazy, right? If I started describing her telephones and horseless carriages and hot air balloons and the commonplace things of his time, she would not believe him, right? He would sound crazy to her. So it's a matter of like perspective and like time and place, right? What's normal for one person is not normal for another person. And here it's just amplified because we're in such different time periods, right? And so he's saying that, oh, you are brought up in a world that believes in magic and witchcraft and hocus pocus and all this stuff. And I'm brought up in the modern age that believes in science and technology, but those two things sound crazy to the other one. Right? There's no really way to, like, he basically decides there's no way to get her to understand where I'm coming from without sounding insane myself. So I'm just going to drop it and leave it alone.
Yeah. He says, but as I was the only person in the kingdom afflicted with such impious and criminal opinions, I recognize that it would be good wisdom to keep quiet about this matter too. basically saying he has to keep up the charades of this because he knows that if word gets out that he believes crazy things like the world is not flat and doesn't have pillars to support it, then bad things will befall him.
You mean there's no world turtle? What are you talking about?
It's turtles all the way down.
So anyway, they take refuge in this place, and he does enjoy being out of armor and in a bed and, free from the constraints of knight errantry for a moment. But then this chapter is weird too, because it's like longer and like it's like two things happen at the same time, which is a little bit weirder from how it goes before. But they encounter some pilgrims, right? So they encounter some a pilgrimage, right? And they're trying to figure out what's going on. And it turns out there's some sort of like holy fountain in the mountain ? And it's a holy place of pilgrimage. And at one point in time, they had built some baths there for people to come and bathe and be free of sin and whatever. But then that caused the flow of water to stop. So these people took that as a sign to stop bathing.
Yes.
And so that's what the first people asked, because they're like, we heard that the flow at this spring stopped. And someone's like, did they bathe again? And like, no, I don't think so. I think we're good. So this is the problem, right? There's their pilgrimage. The pilgrims say that where they're going to is afflicted with a problem, and they can't go on the pilgrimage. And so he's deciding that he's going to go see what's up, right? He wants to go see what this hubbub is about. Wherein, as we encounter another traveling knight errant billboard, this one confusingly sells 19th century headwear. That's his thing. He sells hats, which is a plan, right? So he sells like top hats and bowler hats to people, because again, his plan to end the knighthood altogether is to make them look ridiculous. So by making them wear suits of armor and top hats,
jaunty hats, he
says maybe people will just stop all this nonsense because they look so goofy. So he says, his night guy tells him, "Oh, we're they were trying to find you, boss, because they wanted to see if your magic would help, but they found so they sent a note to Camelot, but Merlin heard about it and he's going there instead." To which Hank's response is, "Oh yeah, watch this." And he writes some kind of like weird letter in one of the hats and says, "All right, buddy, take this back to Clarence. He'll know what to do."
Right. Yes. Yes. Inside of his hat, chemical department, laboratory extension, section G. Yeah.
Yeah. It's real confusing script stuff here.
Yes.
Yeah. It just sent, because we know he has some sort of manufacturing up and running. What exactly this particular manufacturing is, we don't really know. But he's, send first 2 of number 3 and 6 of number 4. You're like, what is happening? So he's going to go up here, and I sense another miracle happening, right? I feel like that's where we're going. I feel like that's what I'm sensing. I'm sensing another miracle coming, right? We're going to show up Merlin again, perhaps. That's my prediction, because we didn't read the next chapter, right?
No,
okay.
No, we did.
All right, I was making sure I read the right number of chapters, but
no, you're fine.
So that's because our next chapter is the Holy Fountain. So we're going to see what's up. What is this scheme he's hatched to fix the water? Will he humiliate Merlin again? I think that might be a bonus, right? I think it's going to be a bonus. He's going to fix the water for the monks, but I think the bonus is making Merlin look foolish, right? I think that's his other goal here. So we'll see. But I feel another miracle coming on. I don't know. It's just kind of where I'm feeling, right? I don't know much about where this story's headed, but I'm really feeling some shenanigans with the miracles happening in the next chapter. So we'll see.
Yeah, I still have no idea where this is going to go, because I keep expecting Hank to have a downfall and for Hank to like really stick his foot in it. But as of yet,
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know about the Hank character arc. It's a little bit weird.
And I also don't know if that's part of the story, in that like in the knight errant's tale, the knight can do no wrong and like has all these things that just happen, and like
that's true.
To his luck, is Hank going to become that character?
I think he might be.
That just all these miraculous things happen, and we get to see the behind the stories of like, well, really wasn't that miraculous, and it was kind of like messy all the way through and whatever. I don't know.
It could be just one commentary on that, right? That could be part of it, because a lot of it is like social commentary, reading between the lines. But I feel like that could be another thing, like where he's talking about like, see, stories where there is no character development are not good. Like, look, I wrote one for you, and see how it's not that great. You see that? So we'll see. We'll see what he has to say. Right? We'll see. But at least there's going to be at least one more miracle coming in the next couple chapters. It may take him forever to get to it, but we'll see how long.
Or it might not, because some of these things, it's just like, well, like whenever you blew up the tower.
Yeah, he's like, so anyway, I had a man working on it for a little bit, and now it's done.
And that's fine. So anyway, and now the water flows. So great. I'm pretty amazing.
Yeah, so we'll see.
So, do you have a quote for us?
I do. I do have the Mark Twain quote of the week. Right. Do the right thing. It will gratify some people and astonish the rest. Bam.
Okay. I like it. I do.
Not too bad. Not too bad. I also do have a surprise haiku. In fact, this is my week for haiku. I didn't remember this until like right before we started doing this, so I wrote it. Today.
Was your haiku?
Yeah.
I thought you did one last week.
I thought you did one last week.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, fine.
Did you do one last week? Oh, hold on. Let me look at this. Let me look at this here. Oh, I did one last week. All right, never mind. It's your week. I'm going to throw mine away. Forgot about the shark haiku. That's right.
Well, I too forgot about the haiku, so I wrote not too long ago. So this is my haiku.
All right, here we
go. Quiet lake waits. My line dances. Fish scorn me. Empty hook returns.
That was good. That's some deep personal connection right there. That's,
not based on real events.
Oh yeah,
no, of course
not. Not based on true story.
So, you save yours.
All right, save it.
You already done.
I'll probably have to fix it about make it better because I was rushing. So we'll see. I may come with a better one. Who knows?
Oh, okay. Well,
all right.
We will do that then.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.